Hello, welcome back to another video. My name is Gemma and Victober 2024 is nearly upon us, and so I thought, what better time than the end of September to share with you my TBR for Victober. So let's start at the beginning. If you don't know what Victober is, it is a month-long readathon which has some amazing co-hosts that I'll talk about in a moment, and they are dedicated to promoting Victorian literature in October. Victorian literature being anything that was published during the reign of Queen Victoria, and so every year they come up with some prompts and I pick books for them and then I try to read some of them. So this is not like a definitive plan of everything that I'm going to read, but these are the books that I will choose from, and I will just see what tickles my pickle when we get into October. So this is the mastermind of the fabulous Katie from Books and Things. If you haven't checked out her channel, she's amazing. All hosts will be linked below, and all hosts are amazing, to be fair. But Katie is very, very well versed in Victorian literature. You will find a plethora of resources and information on her channel if you're looking to get a bit more into that region of classic books. But this is effectively her readathon, and then we have some co-hosts that support who are also very, very knowledgeable about that period of literature. So we'll start with the group book that has been chosen, and the group book is The Doctor's Wife by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. So I have read two books by Braddon. I read Aurora Floyd last year, which was fine, but I didn't love it. And then I read Lady Audley's Secret the year before, and I really, really enjoyed that. That was really pacey. If you haven't read Lady Audley's Secret, I highly recommend it. As a classic, it reads very, very quickly, very plotty. It keeps you guessing. It's fabulous. And so I am really keen to read another book by Braddon, given that this will be my third year participating in Victober, and I have read a Braddon every year. So it's like Braddon o'clock for me. So The Doctor's Wife is a retelling sort of Madame Bovary. I haven't read Madame Bovary, so that might mean more to you than it does to me. And it's a story of adultery, death and female recrimination, which sounds fabulous. So yeah, I think it follows a woman who is not overly pleased with her marriage. The guy's a bit unappealing in many ways, and we follow her story. So I don't know too much more than that. With classics, I find that often if you read the blurbs, they spoil the whole story. So I only read like the first couple of lines just to get a taste, and then I go from there. So that's the group book which I will be trying to read. Then they have a group challenge this year, and something which is very close to my heart. So over the last 12 months we lost two booktubers that were quite involved in Victoria, always followed it, always supported it. One of those was Jennifer Brick, and the other was a very, very close friend of mine, Alice, from Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. And to celebrate both of those ladies, Katie and crew have this group challenge, which is to read either a book by Wilkie, which is one of Jennifer Brick's favourite authors, or... oh, I've just been given a sticker. There we go. Or a book by Arthur Conan Doyle, which was one of Alice's favourite authors. So I am going to read some Doyle. I have read quite a few books by Arthur Conan Doyle, and before I started BookTube, I was on a bit of a mission to work through all of his short stories. So if you're unfamiliar, I'm talking about Sherlock Holmes, and they are sort of murder mystery short stories, and they're fabulous. I think everybody knows who Sherlock Holmes is. But I had a look back because I was reading it on my Kindle at where I'd gotten to, and the next short story there was to read was The Adventure of the Solitary Cyclist. So I'm going to be reading that. And if anyone's read it, let me know. And I'm not even sure if this was published within the Victorian era or whether it was after, because Arthur Conan Doyle sort of straddles the periods, but I do want to read that. Also, the fabulous Salbo Reads, who is on Instagram, I will link her below, got in contact with Jack at Spread Book Joy, who most of you will probably know if you're following my channel, and asked if any of us would be willing to talk about the Audrey app in exchange for a code to get a free copy of an Arthur Conan Doyle story. So I said, yes, please, that would be lovely. And so I will be listening to, on the Audrey app, because it's an audio book app, A Study in Scarlet, which I have already read, but not for a long time, and I can't remember anything about it. So I'll be re-listening to that on Audrey. And what is really nice about Audrey, I've done Audrey books before. They sort of specialise in classics, and they have obviously the audio, but after each chapter or small section, they have information on that. So it might be a voice note from whoever's sort of like supporting that book to tell you a little bit more about it, or it might be a link to an article or a piece of artwork or something that relates to the story, just to create some depth in the piece of literature that you are reading. And I did this for Frankenstein last year, I think, and it was fantastic. It added so much to it, gave me some more information on both the author and the story and what was happening at that time in history. And so I would highly recommend that you check out the Audrey app if you're interested. And yes, I will be looking forward to delving into a bit of Sherlock Holmes with that. And then we move on to the host's prompts. So there are 4 hosts, and I'll start with Katie's prompt because she is the one that I have already spoken about and is sort of like the chief VICTOBER. I just made that up. And Katie's challenge is to read a Victorian novel that plays with form. And Katie gives lots of good recommendations on her announcement video, as do all of the hosts. They all give recommendations for their prompt. So if you're stuck on any of these, then go and check them out. Everything will be linked below for you. But one of the books that Katie talked about that I didn't actually realise was Victorian until she said it, and that I bought literally the other day, was The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. And this is a very slim novel, which makes a change from the likes of Dickens and well, all other Victorian authors really. And so I thought this was the perfect choice. It's also on my scratch bucket list challenge for this year to get through this. And this follows a time traveller who goes 800,000 years into the future, I believe. So very famous, probably one of H.G. Wells' most famous books, along with The War of the Worlds, which I have read. So yeah, really looking forward to getting into this, and I think it's told in like a diary-ish format. He is recounting his journey in this book. So yeah, looking forward to that. Then the next host that I'm going to talk about is Kate Howe, and her challenge, her prompt this year is to read a book that features religion. And for this I'm going to go for Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte. It will be my first book by Anne Bronte, and is loosely based on Anne Bronte's own experiences as a governess. And so we follow a governess in this story who suffers abuse as a result of her position, her social and her professional position. So I am really excited to get to that. I have enjoyed Bronte sisters' work in the past, and so I'm pretty sure I'll like that one. And it's one of those books that I feel like most people have read, but I have not. So yes, it's on the list. Then we have Roz's challenge. Roz is skelly dangling about the books. I absolutely adore Roz. She is one of the most lovely humans on the planet. So if you don't know Roz, bob over and check her out. She's just so wholesome, and her videos relax you. She's a very relaxing person. Unlike me, who is a bit chaotic and don't really know what I'm doing. And Roz's prompt was to read a Victorian play. And I don't read a lot of plays. Roz always gives the most challenging prompts for me because it's always completely out of my wheelhouse. But in her video, Roz said, basically, if you haven't read The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde, then look no further. That's the one. And in fact, I have not read The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde, and so that's the one I'm going to read, because Roz is usually bang on the money with this sort of thing, and I have no experience. So I think this is a bit of a wild ride, mistaken identities, entangled lovers, all this kind of craziness. And again, I don't think it's too long, so I'm looking forward to getting to that one. I would also say some of these books I do own either on Kindle or physically, but there is Project Gutenberg where you can access a lot of these books for free. Obviously libraries, Libby, so those that I don't own I will be accessing through those platforms. So yeah, this is definitely an easy read along to join in with, because you don't have to go out and buy anything if you don't want to. And then lastly but not least, you have Marissa's challenge. Marissa at Blatantly Bookish, and her prompt was to read a book that was originally serialised, and a lot of Victorian novels were originally serialised. And when the prompts for Victober came out, the one author that I really wanted to try and fit into my TBR was Thomas Hardy, because I absolutely adore Thomas Hardy and I still have quite a lot of his work to go at. And I was reading through the prompts and I was like, I'm not sure that Hardy fits any of these, or if he does, I've already read the ones that would really relate. And then Marissa's prompt came along and I was like, yes! So I'm going to read The Mayor of Casterbridge, which was, funnily enough, the group read for Victober a couple of years ago, and I didn't get to it, and I still have FOMO 2 years later, so I'm going to try and read it this year. And all I know about it is that it's about a guy who sells his wife and baby at a fair. And I guess he at some point will become a mayor of a town called Casterbridge, and I don't think life works out very well for him. So Thomas Hardy is known for quite dark themes, and a little bit of wry humour and very plotty novels. So he is definitely my favourite Victorian author, and this one seems to get a lot of love, so I'm looking forward to getting to that. And so that is it. That is the 5 prompts plus the group read. That's what I'm going to try and read for Victober. We'll see how many of them I actually get to, but I would like to get to all of them. It won't happen, but I would like to. I'd love to know what you guys are reading for Victober. If you don't want to leave a comment, just leave me like a queen emoji for old Queen Vic. And if you're interested in seeing my comparison of Mary Elizabeth Braddon and George Eliot, which I did last year, I will leave that here for you, and I will see you all very soon with another one. Bye guys!